Hey, what's up everybody? This is OurMusicBox501 and today I want to show you guys one of Moze's best boss killing builds. And this is going to be specifically built to be able to kill bosses as quickly as possible on Mayhem 4. But there's a few things I want to go over before we get into the talents, into the items. So first off, Moze has never been one of the strongest characters for boss killing. Pretty much all the other characters in the game have had as good or better options for killing bosses than Moze. And that has gotten much worse on Mayhem 4. In my opinion, Moze is overall the weakest character right now for Mayhem 4, and much weaker specifically for killing bosses than options for all of the other characters. With that being said, pretty much all of the boss kills in this video were not first time boss kills. These were boss kills with changing up specific items like class mods to get different weapon rolls if I'm using that weapon for a boss. Pretty much trying the bosses multiple times, and in the case of the Tyrene kill in this video, trying it probably 24 times to get a really good kill. These are not going to be the average boss kills, and this is with really good gear. The Moze just is in the weakest spot for being able to farm bosses as quickly as possible. And with all that being said, you can still solo everything in the game on Mayhem 4 with Moze as you can with every character. And as you'll see, you can still get some decent boss killing times with this. So all that being said, let's go straight into the talents. So first starting off, we're mainly going to be going into the Bottomless Mags tree. Now the main reason for this is the Some for the Road capstone talent that we'll get to in a second, but also specifically with bosses with immunity phases, a lot of these other ammo regen talents are extremely useful because you want to be able to have good damage phases outside of your infinite ammo after Iron Bear. So first we have Cloud of Lead. Every fourth shot does not consume ammo, does extra incendiary damage. Stroke the Embers, extra incendiary damage. We have Redistribution, which after critting gives you a % of your magazine back. We have Scrappy, which gives you while moving, you get increased handling, you get weapon swap speed increase, and a mode switch speed if you need that. The weapon swap speed is very good on bosses that have immunity phases to where you're going to be able to switch between, say, a sellout to apply elemental effects to yourself to use elemental projector. Then we have one in a Russian offense. I just had 1 point left, and it does help sometimes to be able to sprint and shoot. I probably don't use this near as much as I should. Then we have Scorching RPMs, which gives you fire rate increase, critical damage increase, and Iron Bear damage increase, which we really don't use Iron Bear at all in this. The Iron Bank give you magazine size increase, which is very good, specifically again talking about immunity phases bosses or bosses you can't burst down super quickly, because the higher the magazine, the more ammo you get back, because all of your ammo regen is percentage based. Then we have the main talent for the build, Some for the Road. You gain infinite damage for 5 seconds after exiting your Iron Bear. Now this is going to be your main burst. On bosses you can burst down within this, say Traunt, say Grave Ward, this is pretty much the entire thing that facilitates you being able to burst down bosses in super quick windows. But that's not exactly how it happens on immunity phase bosses. Then we have Click Click. Gives you gun damage increase. That's pretty much all we're using it for. Then we have our gun damage as your magazine empties, I guess. That's pretty much all we're using it for though. Then we have Forge. You basically just gain 5% of your magazine per second, which again, super helpful on boss you can't burst down in your infinite ammo window. So next we're going to Shield of Retribution. We're going 5 in Armor and Infantry. Most of this is tanky stuff. Where shields are active, you gain damage reduction and increased gun damage. This does have a little bit of gun damage, so 30% damage reduction, 15% gun damage increase. And we are doing a 1 health build with this as well, so your shields are always up or you're dead. We have this talent, you gain maximum shield increase and shock damage resistance, just much more tanky. Then we have Thin Red Line, which reserves more max health to give you more shields. We have 1 in a Drowning Abasis, and mainly to get lower in the tree. You can use Selfless Vengeance. Even with 1 HP, this won't kill you. You can't suicide yourself with this. So if you want to use this, you'd pretty much only have 1 point into it. But it really wouldn't affect you, and this could definitely help for bosses with immunity phases or that you can't burst down, because you will be reloading at some point. So you could switch this, but it's not going to be a big deal. Then we have experimental munitions. When Moze or your Iron Bear crit, they deal bonus incendiary damage, 10% bonus, which is pretty big, especially since a lot of bosses you're going to want to be critting as much as possible. Then we have desperate measures. You gain gun damage increase depending on how low your health is. The lower the health, the more the gun damage increase. We have 1 health for this build, so we have 83% gun damage increase pretty much all the time. It's a pretty big damage increase. Now, for your Iron Bear, you're not really using it. Does not matter what weapons you put on it or anything like that, because we're just using it to go in it, get out of it, and give ourselves some buffs. Now, for the weapons of this build, there is a lot of changes. As you'll see in this video, I change weapons a lot between different bosses because different weapons are better for different bosses. Say something like a Grave Ward. Lyudas are always going to be amazing for Grave Ward even after they got heavily nerfed, just because Grave Ward has to be shot from a certain distance to split into 3 bullets, and Grave Ward has a massive crit spot where every one of those 3 shots is going to easily crit it. So that's why, say, Lyuda on Grave Ward, always going to be good. Something like Tyrene, as you'll see, after her immunity phase, when she's on the ground and her head, which is her crit spot, is sticking out, something like a Butcher is really good for that, because you can just stand basically touching her head and easily crit all of your Butcher shots, which do a ridiculous amount of damage. Then you have Cutsmans that are really good that I use in the video. All this type of stuff. This build, unlike others, you kind of have to switch up your gear to be super good, just because of how weak Moze's boss killing is compared to the other characters. So for our grenade and shield mods, again, you're going to want the anointed that on actions go end give you elemental damage increase. Like I've said before, do not stack the same element on these. So if you have a radiation here, don't have a radiation on the shield. Now, these are also super important to switch up depending on what you're fighting. So if I'm fighting Grave Ward, I'm going to want a fire one. Then I'm going to want another element that does normal damage against flesh, so it doesn't get reduced damage. If I'm, say, facing something like the Agonizer, I'd want a radiation because that does more against armored, at least on True Vault Hunter mode. And then we would want a corrosive one right here for extra corrosive against armor. So you're going to want to switch those up if you have extra of those. Now, our class mod is going to be the Bloodlighter. Like I said, we're doing a 1 health build. This will also give you some damage increases, specifically from Desperate Measure. You're going to want to try to get the most points into Desperate Measure from the class mod, and then it's all just depending on the secondary role of this. So this one specifically is a really good role for if I'm using a shotgun, and a really nice thing about this one is a shotgun damage increase, but also a Hyperion weapon critical damage increase. Now the Butcher is a Hyperion weapon and a shotgun, so a massive damage increase from this. This is one of the ways I was able to kill Tyrene in this video. The kill I do in this video, this is one of the reasons I was able to kill it this quickly. And that's just another way that you have to basically cater the items you're using to whatever boss you're killing. Then, we're using the Elemental Projector with the Deathless Legendary effect for that massive shield increase, and putting us down to 1 HP, which we pretty much are already at, so just a massive increase. Now, the Elemental Projector, why I'm using this, if you're doing a boss, say, like Grave Ward, like Tron, you can kill in your infinite ammo phase. You're not going to be using this, because switching to apply an element to yourself after you get out of your mech, if you do it before your mech, it's pretty much going to be off you by the time you get out of your mech and start shooting. So applying this after doesn't make sense either, because you're going to waste like half of your infinite ammo. So this is mainly for bosses you can't burst down in that 5-second window, or they have immunity phases. So you can switch to something like a Sellout, and you'll see me do this in the video in the boss killing footage. I'll switch to something like a Sellout. I'll put an element on myself, say fire or corrosive, and in between the immunity phases, that's what I'll do to get a lot more damage, to make the phases that we don't have infinite ammo just a bit stronger, so we're not just being completely weak without our infinite ammo. So as we went over, butchers are good, laders are good, cutsmiths are good. All these with anointed. Pretty much the best anointed is on action skill end. Do 125% more weapon damage to badass named and boss enemies for a short time. That's pretty much the best. You can also get on action skill end. Your next 2 magazines have whatever elemental damage. That will, you don't have to reload for that to activate. So if you have one of these weapons pop into your mech, pop out, it will apply that extra damage to the magazine. Since you have infinite ammo for 5 seconds, it will constantly be getting that 50% additional whatever elemental damage you have. Then there's also the on action skill end weapon damage increased by 100%, which is a little bit worse than this one that we just went over, but it's still pretty good. And those are pretty much the best anointeds you could get for this specific build. And that's pretty much the entire build. That's pretty much all of the items. There could be a few decent boss killing items. I don't think a King's Call is that great. I think you really want stuff that you can shoot very quickly. So Cutsmans have a decent fire rate, but you don't run out of ammo with them and they have a decent fire rate. Lyudas are insane fire rate. That's their main drawback, is magazine size and how fast they shoot out their magazine size. Butchers have massive fire rates. So stuff like that are always going to be good, because you want something that shoots very fast when you have unlimited ammo, so you can put as much damage in that 5-second unlimited ammo window as you possibly can. So that's pretty much the entire build. As I said, this is probably going to be the weakest character for farming bosses right now on Mayhem 4, so take that in consideration. And subscribe if you want to see more Borderlands 3 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below if you guys have any questions about where to get any of these items, how any of the build works, or anything like that. Leave it in the comments. I'll try to reply to everybody. And thanks for watching. Witness the Agonizer 9000! Our boat is on fire! Time for a quick prep. Our ammunition sponsor today is Retribution. How can you hear cult wackos get stuffed? Hey pal, I'll take your money, but that's just unprofessional.